My name's David Clausen. I'm the Finance Director for Dare County. Within the county, we do a 5-year capital improvements plan every year. Capital improvements plan is a long-range plan to create a list of prioritized capital projects by going through board review and approval can reflect the board's goals and objectives. The capital improvements plan is funded by a local 1% realty transfer tax. 35% of that goes to all the towns within the county, and 65% goes to Dare County, and it has to be used for capital projects.
My name is Sheila Davies. I am the Director of the Department of Health and Human Services and the Public Health Director for Dare County. The Department of Health and Human Services has recently received notification of funding for 2 capital improvement project requests. The first is for this fiscal year, and it's $50,000 to do a study that looks at what our needs are with our space to accommodate the services that we deliver to the community. So it will look at that staffing ratio and where we are with putting people, and then programmatically what space we need to deliver the services. The second request that was funded is a $2 million construction request. And so based on the outcome of the study and what things are identified in the study, we then have money set aside to either reconfigure space or address space needs. The funding of those requests really enable us to ensure that we're going to deliver the best possible services in the best possible manner to those in our community.
I'm Russ Kurganis. I'm the Facilities Director for Dare County Schools, and this year we had lots of projects that were presented to the county in our CIP plan, and all of them were funded. And that's a big part of operation and keeping up our infrastructure within the county. We have some very large facilities, schools that house all of our students and staff. A couple of those projects were Manteo High School's roof replacement, chiller replacement at First Flight Middle School, HVAC software and hardware upgrades, along with rooftop replacements at Cape Hatter Secondary School. This funding is important because it keeps our facilities going. We need a roof over our heads, we need air conditioning in our building. We're greatly appreciative that the county sets the money aside to take care of the schools within their district.
My name is Jenny Collins, and I'm the Chief of Dare County EMS. One of the things that we were funded in our capital improvement program is for the introduction of mobile data computers and automatic vehicle locators. Instead of calling them by radio to see who's closest to a call to find out their exact location, they can quickly look over at their computer screen on a map and determine which unit is closer. Therefore, it reduces response time to that particular incident. This project is exciting for us to be able to put into a proposal and have the Board of Commissioners and County Administration support this project in the funding of it and recognize the importance in public safety delivery that it's going to provide.
I'm Bobby Out, and I'm the Dare County Manager. In our CIP, we do all the capital improvements, and so our plan prioritizes both county projects and Board of Education projects together so that we can plan the funding. By statute, we're required to fund certain of the capital projects for the Board of Education, and so that's how the plan works. 2 exciting plans that we have that are solely Dare County projects are our animal shelter and our College of the Albemarle project in Manteo.
To be funded by the county here to support our community colleges is just enormous. We are so happy we were able to participate into this planning for the future for our students here. Right now we're situated, we have 2 different locations, and our buildings are antiquated. When I talk about a real campus, I'm talking about one site, new technology, and the opportunity for students to stay on campus and to do their work.
We are very fortunate that the current capital improvement plan is allocating funds for a new shelter. You know, we are in a 40-year-old county-owned building, so we love this place. We've saved a lot of animals here. You know, we've made the best of this facility for a number of years, but it is definitely time for an upgrade. We are looking forward to opening a new shelter alongside with the county that's inviting to the public and provides a great space for the animals of Dare County.
Current plan covers 2019 through 2023. We're looking forward to these projects and how they will help our community.
My name is Sandy Cross. I am the floodplain manager for the town of Duck. The National Flood Insurance Program, also known as the NFIP, is a federally backed program that aims to reduce the impact of flooding on private and public structures. NFIP does so by providing affordable insurance to property owners, renters, and businesses, and by encouraging communities to adopt and enforce floodplain management regulations. Overall, the program reduces the socio-economic impact of disasters by promoting the purchase and retention of general risk insurance, but more importantly, flood insurance. The town of Duck has been a participant in the National Flood Insurance Program through the CRS Community Rating System since 2011. We currently hold a Class 7 rating, which equates to a 15% discount to insurance holders within the special flood hazard area. This discount does not apply to homeowners who carry flood insurance outside of the special flood hazard area. But on that same note, some folks don't think that they need flood insurance when they're outside of the special flood hazard area, but we have found in recent years, specifically following Hurricane Matthew and even as recent as last month when we accumulated over 14 inches of rain in less than 2 weeks, floods can happen anywhere. Homeowners need to understand that homeowners insurance does not cover flood. Flood insurance is a separate policy, and flood maps don't take into consideration all flood risks such as rainfall and elevated groundwater totals. So if you don't have flood insurance, it's highly recommended that you contact your insurance agent and talk to them about securing some flood insurance. There are several activities the town participates in to improve your insurance rating. One of those is a public outreach initiative. If you're in need of an old elevation certificate for your property, you can contact our office, and if we have it, we're going to be able to provide it to you. Mapping information inquiries as well. If you don't know what flood zone you're in, you can contact our office. You can also utilize our website, which has a floodplain page designated specifically for those needs. The North Carolina Mapping Program also has a website called FRIS, F-R-I-S. We also have public outreach initiatives where we actually send out brochures to inform you about the flood risk associated in the area that you live. One of the other things that we get credit for is hazard disclosure. That is somewhat reliant on realtors. So if you're dealing with a realtor and looking at purchasing a property or selling a property, disclosing what flood zone that property is located in can actually provide the community with some credit points towards our insurance discounts. Regulations are another activity that come into play with regard to insurance ratings. Implementing a higher standard, when you're talking about NFIP, you're talking about a minimum flood standard. But if we as a town implement a higher standard, we're going to get credit for that. So for instance, we have a 1-foot freeboard. That gives us a little higher credit. If your property is located in a high velocity flood zone, you're looking at a 2-foot freeboard. These are all factors that go into play when you're talking about your insurance rating. Warning and response is another activity that plays a big part in our insurance rating. When we know there's a hurricane coming, we as a town join forces with the county and the other municipalities in what's called the Joint Information Center, and they have a plan on how to disseminate this information to visitors and residents alike. We also have a system that is developed through the county called Regroup. It's a text messaging system that you can sign up for, and we'll give you that information as well, just so that you know what's happening in the event of an emergency. I do believe that the town's participation in the CRS program is beneficial for the community as a whole. We receive reduced insurance rates. As a town, we communicate together and plan for failures and floods and things that are not necessarily expected on a daily basis. And by doing that, we're able to reduce our flood loss, our risk, and plan for the future.
With a short continental shelf and a location that's right near the Gulf Stream, the Outer Banks is known for having some of the best waves on the East Coast. But those same waves that make this place a haven for surfers and kiteboarders can sometimes be dangerous for swimmers. Keep yourself safe from rip currents and other hazards in the ocean with these tips.
You need to stay out of the water when the red flags are up. This isn't just a suggestion, it's actually against the law on southern shores to be in the water. Even if red flags aren't flying, it doesn't necessarily mean it's safe to be in the water if you're not an experienced swimmer. So make sure you're swimming near a lifeguard.
We know the beaches, we're here every day. We know the safest places to swim. If you're visiting from out of town, the ocean here might be different from where you're from or where you vacationed in the past. Our rip currents can be stronger and shocking to you.
Rip currents are dangerous, narrow channels of powerful, fast-moving water pushing offshore. They often occur after storms, but can form at any time, even when the weather is nice. Although rip currents are difficult to locate on shore, they can be identified where the waves are not breaking, but it is best to confer with a lifeguard.
If you do get caught in a rip current, don't panic. The rip will just carry you straight out from shore. Typically, the main problem with rip currents is exhaustion. The current itself is not going to pull you under. You want to swim north or south to get out of the rip current and not fight the current itself.
If you see someone caught in a rip current, tell the lifeguard right away or call 911. Do not go in. Again, get the lifeguard.
The town of Kitty Hawk is among the most beautiful places on the East Coast to live. However, that beauty can quickly turn into rough ocean overwash flooding or soundside flooding caused by wind-driven tide. Excessive rain events bring more flooding problems. Any of these events have a negative impact on providing emergency response to residents or visitors.
The town has invested in a stormwater removal system in order to facilitate access by emergency response personnel to all our citizens in a timely fashion.
The number one goal for the town of Kitty Hawk after a hurricane or major flooding event is emergency response. And as part of the emergency response plan, the town of Kitty Hawk has installed 7 pumping stations in between NC 12 and US 158 in order to alleviate and reduce the stormwater standing in the roadways. The number one priority is obviously life and safety after a major storm event, and it's important that our emergency vehicles such as police, fire, and EMS are able to get to our residents in a timely manner.
The North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality's policy states that we're only allowed to pump flood or standing water to ensure emergency response capability to the impacted areas. When we pump, we mark these areas with signage so people know as to not swim in these areas.
We submitted a plan to the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, and that plan allows us, through a pre-approval process, to say we'll do certain things under certain conditions if we give you a call and you give us permission. And using that, we can then pump stormwater into the ocean under certain conditions.
The town has 7 pump-out stations located at Bird Street, Fonk Street, Bennett Street, Hawk Street, Starfish Lane, Hallett Street, and Tateway Avenue. Those stations are all located in some of the lowest lying areas where they can do the most good.
These stations are not equipped with permanently installed pumps. Since these pumps are expensive to purchase, operate, maintain, and insure, we rent them from an outside vendor. Pumping is done to clear the roadways for emergency services and only for that reason.
The town of Kitty Hawk continuously monitors the weather during storm events, and this dictates whether or not the town will begin pumping operations.
More recently, what we did was we ran a pipe under 158 down by the Tateway, that's the south end of town, and that allows us to pull both sides of 158 and part of Tateway, which is always flooded, the place called Rabbit Hollow. So that alleviated some problems there and gives us much more pumping capability in a wider area. We're continuing to invest in other areas where we see spots that we can add to this pumping system, but this will come over time. It's not something that's going to happen overnight.
Good afternoon, my name is Kevin Zork. I'm the fire chief here in the town of Nags Head. The Nags Head Fire Department is well known for its fire suppression, medical services, and rescue services. But few people know about our Special Needs Assistance Program. And our Special Needs Assistance Program grew and was driven by a customer need to help people in their homes and also to help folks who may be visiting the area. What we aim to do is take the dis out of disability when you come to the town of Nags Head. In this past fiscal year, we responded 135 times to special needs assistance calls, and that's up by 12% over the previous year. One component of our program is we will help people to access areas that maybe perhaps formerly were unreachable to them. We'll take them out on the beach, maybe for a wedding, a family event, some type of special gathering that they would be unable to navigate over the sand for. Our beach wheelchair loan program was utilized 473 days this past fiscal year, and so that's increased by about 40% over the previous year. The beach wheelchair loan program is a free program. Those chairs are loaned out and reserved for people who visit the area and for folks who live here. If you're interested in any of those reservations, you should call 252-441-5909 and reserve them for the future. The town of Nags Head has approximately 40 beach and sound accesses, 16 of which are accessible to people with special needs. 3 of our beach accesses, Bonnet Street, Jeanette's Pier, and 8th Street, have blue beach mats that will allow the passage of wheelchairs and strollers for the convenience of the beach patron.
I'm Randy Holcomb. I've lived in Nags Head now for about 20 years. And it's been pretty accessible community, really, because there's ramps everywhere you can get in and out. But the beach was always an issue, but you had the topographical challenges of the sand changing with dunes and all that. So this Moby mat thing really helped out. You can roll them up during the storms, and put them back out. I went to church one Sunday, and a friend of mine from Pennsylvania, who I met there, said, "Hey man, how did you get on the beach?" He had his family, and he was a higher spinal cord injury. So he was a quad, and he had an electric wheelchair, and he'd sit on, he went through much hardship and cash to pay for the rental of the house and all, and he sat on a deck while his family played on the beach. You know what I mean? So it kind of touched me, so I wanted to do something. That's what kind of started it all. So now we have the Bonnet Street access, which is really great. It's beautiful, and they put mats out here too, and I just want folks to know about it. So that's an example really for the other towns, because no one's really doing it like Nags Head's doing it.
I'm Melissa Dickerson. I'm the town planner for the Town of Manteo. The Community Rating System, or CRS, was designed by FEMA to encourage local governments to enforce standards higher than the National Flood Insurance Program. The Town of Manteo participates in the Community Rating System, or CRS, and we score points that buys down flood insurance premiums for our property owners. The Town of Manteo has a Class 7 score, which in turn is a 15% savings on flood insurance premiums. In Manteo, we want you to know your flood hazard. So it's really important to know what flood zone you live in, or if you even live in a special flood hazard area. Your flood insurance rates are based on your flood zone, and it also kind of determines your risk for flooding. So it's really important to know what flood zone you live in. You can get information on the flood zone that you live in by calling me at Town Hall at 252-473-4112. In Manteo, we want you to insure your property for flood hazard. The state and FEMA have developed new maps, and about every 10 years new maps are developed, and we have our preliminary maps now that we expect to come out next year. So in town, properties are changing either in base flood elevation, or some properties that are in a special flood hazard area currently are being removed from that special flood hazard area. It's very important to know what you are now, where your home or property is now, and what you're going to in the new maps. But even more, it's very critical to maintain your flood insurance coverage, even if you're coming out of a special flood hazard area. In Manteo, we want you to protect your property from the hazard. So it's important to know when you're building your home to build responsibly. You're required to come in and get a building permit from my office, the planning department here at Town Hall. We will work with you through the town regulations to establish the foot at which you need to be building, and we do have 1 foot of freeboard, which requires you to build 1 foot above base flood elevation. In Manteo, we want to protect people from the hazard of flooding. Here in Manteo, we have an ordinance that prohibits people from driving on streets where there is flood water. This was done certainly from a safety standpoint, but also because as people drive on the streets, water will slosh into businesses. So in order to prevent that kind of damage from happening, the commissioners passed an ordinance that fines people from driving through floodwaters. We expect anyone that sees those signs to turn around, not to enter those floodwaters, and to turn around and not drown. In Manteo, we want to protect natural floodplain functions. We want folks to keep their ditches and drains clean. If you have ditches on your property, keep them empty of debris, keep them dug, and the floodplain will function more properly and more naturally. If you have any questions, feel free to give me a call here at Town Hall at 252-473-4112.